And for one more piece of practice, I'd like you to go into Blackboard, into Learning Plan 4, which is Chapter 4 and 6. And at the bottom of the screen, I have some additional photos for you. And go ahead and download. It's just 2 pictures that we're going to work on. And click on the zip file when it's done. Come on. And that's going to unzip that folder, and it's just 2 images. It's a car and a field. Those are the 2 that you should download. And we'll go back into Photoshop, and we're going to open those 2 files. So file open, and then it's probably in your download folder. And the 2 images are car and field. You can highlight them both and open them in one swat. So get to this point, you should have an image of a vehicle on a asphalt with a brick building behind it, and then the other tab is an open field. And using layer masking, we're going to attempt to make this look like it's sitting on this field. All right. Everybody have these 2 images open, or we need a second yet? Okay. All right, we are going to move this whole entire image called car into the file called field. So take your move tool, click and drag it up into, come on, oh, it's locked, we can't, and it warned me. Do you want to convert it to a normal layer? Yep, I do. Or you can double click down here in the layers panel to unlock it and turn it into a regular layer. Now we can move it, and we can move it all the way up to the tab of the field, and then bring it back down and drop it into this image. And then you can move it around so that it is on top of this field image. So we have 2 layers, the background and then the car above it. Good? No. Take the move tool and then click and drag from this tab up to the other one. Don't let go until you get back in. Yep. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to mask out everything that we don't want to see. So we're going to mask out or blacken out the whole background here, and we're going to leave the car as the white thing. So we're going to do this in a couple of steps. The first thing we want to do, use any selection tool that makes sense to you. Quick selection tool is an awesome one. And we're going to select the car and the shadow below it. We're going to clean up any imperfections, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So the quick selection tool is nested with the magic wand. It's the 4th tool down. So pick that, bring your cursor into your screen, and my cursor is tiny. I'm going to make it way bigger. I was at 6 pixels. I'm going to make it, gosh, mine's 300. That's fine. And using the quick selection tool, remember it's always adding. So as you're driving around with this selection tool, it's adding to your selection. So we want the car and the shadow below it. And notice I missed some pieces and I got a little too crazy on the shadow. So you can make your selection tool a little bit smaller and try to do a better job of getting the parts of the car like that are in the shade here. And then to take away from the selection, remember you hold the Option or Alt key, and then you kind of push back from the outside of the marching ants and push them back down where they should be. So try to just select. This does not have to be perfect at all. Just try to get a relatively good selection here. Don't worry about the luggage rack or like this front of the car here where the shadow is. If it didn't select that perfectly, don't totally worry about that yet either. But get a fairly decent selection around our car. Once we've done that, we have our mask going down here. Another way of doing this is, instead of coming up to the select and mask that we did before with the refined hair, we're just going to go down to the bottom of our layers panel, and after the FX icon, the next icon over is the masking icon, and we're going to click on that. And it's going to automatically add a layer mask, knowing that everything that was inside of the marching ants should be white, everything that was outside of them should be black. So it made that layer mask for us. We now need to fix the layer mask. So make sure in your layer panel that that little white outline is around the layer mask itself, not the image of the car, because we want to be painting with black and white to fix the mask itself. And then if you need to zoom in on your image and paint with black or white, so get your paintbrush over here in the tools bar, and you can make your brush bigger or smaller as needed. Remember that black hides, so where I have bricks showing through that I don't want, I can paint with black, and white shows. Here's a quick tip. To get your foreground and background colors to be black and white, the letter D on your keyboard is default colors. That'll make black and white pop up down here. To get them to switch places, X. Letter X on your keyboard flips them around. So where you need to paint with white, just hit the letter X, and then, okay, there's the luggage rack. But now I did a messy job, so I need to now paint with black and do a better job of this mask. So you can go around this image and paint with black or white as needed to fix your image. If you option click on the mask itself, it shows it to you in a big preview on your screen. Sometimes that's helpful too. But painting on this layer mask with black or white is going to show or hide. Okay. So go around and do your best to clean this up with pure black and pure white. If you want to disable the mask so that you can actually see with the car underneath it, hold down the Shift key and click on the mask itself. That disables it for a moment, and then you can reactivate it by holding the Shift key and clicking there. Sometimes that's helpful where you want to just see what's really there and then go back and do your painting. Changing your brush size, zooming in, painting with black and white to get your mask where you want it is what you need to do. It obviously takes some time, but it works. If you look at this image, do you see anything that makes it look fake yet?
Oh, the windows.
Yeah. Look through the windows, and there's a brick wall back there. Yeah, fake. So the thing that we can do with that is we can paint in those areas with a tone of gray. That's going to give us that in-between. It's not going to go bright trees as if we had our windows smashed out. It's going to be kind of toned down. So in your foreground swatch, instead of it being white or black, we're going to click on that and we're going to pick a color of gray, a shade of gray. And then we're going to go in and we're going to paint where it shouldn't be quite as dramatic. And with that gray color, we're going to get a toned down version of the trees that are behind and not the brick wall. So if you look at your mask over in either the small version over here, or if you look at it large, this is what it looks like. And maybe it's easier to paint in here now that I see where I have some holes. But by option clicking on the thumbnail itself, you can see the larger version of it. your brush a little bit bigger. So masks can be black, white, or any shade of gray in between. A darker gray would behave more like a black mask. A lighter gray would behave more like a white mask, obviously. The shadow's pretty dramatic. If you wanted to tone down the shadow down here, you could do the same thing with that. Find a version of gray. Obviously, the one I have is too dark. That looks really stupid. So maybe try a lighter version here and paint with that instead. And then that kind of shows it's a shadow, but I can still see the grass texture within it. Yes? Paint over it, yep. 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 So start small. If it's not the right color gray, go ahead and tweak it and paint over the area that you were just in. Yep. So again, with time, you could make this a very good mask. You could make sure, whoops, that's not what I meant to do. You know, these edges right around here should be hard edges. From the car to the background is a dramatic edge. It's not a soft edge. It shouldn't feather out. It should be a nice hard edge. Other areas, there's no transparent areas on a car. You know, we can't see through parts of the car. So this is the power of masking, and you can also see that it's also very non-destructive, because if whoever I'm working with said, why did you do that? I wanted that car on that background with the on the asphalt with the bricks. Go back to that, and for some reason you didn't have that original file, you still could. You just delete the layer mask. You highlight it and hit delete, or you drag it to the trash. It's non-destructive. If somebody comes in and is a better editor than you are and they want to clean up your mask, they can. It's a great workflow. You should always think about working non-destructively like this. Everybody okay with that? Okay, one last thing I want to show you is clipping masks. Let's do you can save this file and come back to it if you want to, you know, look at it or remind yourself how we did this, or you can close it. Doesn't matter. Close that one too. And then I want you to make a new Photoshop document that is US letter size. So under the print family, we see US letter right here, 8.5 by 11, and create. So we have a blank document. I'm going to show you how you can use clipping masks with type. So in our original Hawaii example, we filled the letters Hawaii with a gradient. You can also fill them with photos. So with your type tool, let's find a fairly bold, thick type. Impact is just one that comes to mind, and of course it's not on here. How is that possible? Huh. Scroll through your, oh, I'm still in serif, that's why. If I switch to all classes, lots of fonts on here. We just want a thick, any one of these that are thick, like Acumen looks good. Here's Impact. And I'm going to make it big, 72 point. And I'm going to bring my cursor in here and I'm going to click and I'm going to write trees. And say OK. I actually want to make this even bigger, so I'm going to make it 150. And then I'm going to move it over here. All right, so write the word trees, make it quite big. All right, then we're going to go and open that image that we were using before. So File, Open, go to your Download folder and grab the field JPEG again. And we're going to drag and drop this in our other document. So with the Move tool, it's a background layer. We need to release it first. So double click on the background layer to make it a normal layer. That releases the lock. And then we can move it up into the tab of our untitled document and bring it down and let go. So now it's stacked on top of our trees. To get this to clip to the thing below it, we hold down the Option key and we hold our cursor right between those two layers, and then we click, and that clips that image to the layer below it, which in this case is text. So hold Option, hover right between the two layers, and when you get the down arrow and the box, you click and that clips it in. You can now use your Move tool because this trees picture can be moved around behind it any way you want. So it could be all grass that's showing, it could be the dark part of the trees, it could be whatever you want. That's completely movable. Basically made our word trees be like an overlay, an open window looking at the image below it. That makes sense? So you clip a photo to text and it puts the photo inside of text. Good? All right. Back in Photoshop, back in Blackboard, try number 3. I have your homework for you based on what we've learned today, which is layers, adjustment layers, opacity, gradients, masking. I'm going to have you create a document that is 10 by 12 inches at 300 dpi, high res. I want you to work in high res because it's much easier to edit on high res images. I'm going to have you use a website called Unsplash because, whoops, helps if you have com, unsplash.com. This is an awesome site where you can get free, royalty-free images, videos, all sorts of stuff to use in your work. So if we're doing travel and you decide you want to do something based on this, you know, Egypt or something, this would be an image that I would have you download and use. So you're going to collect a bunch of images from this site. You're going to resize them as needed. Basically, you're going to create a document similar to the Hawaii one we did, where we had lots of different things floating on top of each other. We use words. You're going to make your own travel poster of whatever interests you. So as you bring in your images from Unsplash, maybe the flower that you bring in is as big as your whole document and you only want it to be tiny. You're going to have to free transform it to a proper size. I want you to apply a blending mode to at least one layer. So remember with the pineapple, we did that. We duplicated it and then blended the two together, making it more dramatic. Go back and look through your book. You have to use a blending mode on at least one layer. And I'll see it when I look at your PSD. I'll be able to see that it doesn't say normal. It says overlay or it says multiply. You need to add opacity. I can't talk today. Opacity to at least one layer. So we did that with the postage stamp. We made it more see-through so you could see through it. You can do that to any layer. You need to add additional images, thus making it like we did with our Hawaii thing. I'm going to flat out say you need at least 5. I'll add that here. Otherwise somebody will do 2. Call it good. So your background layer counts, but 5 images from Unsplash at a minimum are brought in. So of the ones you bring in, some of them must be cut out or masked out of their backgrounds. So if it's a perfect circle and you can cut it out of the background using a simple selection tool that's a circle, go for it. But if using this masking is easier that we just learned, quick select a flower, mask it out, all the background is hidden, only your flower now shows, do that. You need to apply a gradient to a layer, somewhere, somehow, text or something. Maybe it's the background and you put a blue to transparent gradient on it so that the sky looks prettier. Just anywhere you want, use a gradient. Adjustment layer, so that FX button where we add anything we do to it is non-destructive. So we can do hue saturation, how we change the girl's glasses, anything like that. I want you to add a border So at the very end, like we did in the Hawaii example in your book, follow those directions if it helps. We're going to make that white border around the edge, just like we did with that. And I want to see masking somewhere, at least one layer. So if you choose to cut out everything, make sure you mask one thing. You have to do one masking exercise. So your effort and quality of overall project, and then have fun. Showcase your skills. This is not, I did it all, I'm done. It's 11:05, I'm out of here. I don't think I can get done by 11:05 doing a good job. I don't think it needs to take forever by any means, but have fun with it. Put some effort into it. Do whatever you want as far as the country or the look or the feel or whatever you want to do for your poster. And then at the end, this is important, everything you've done so far has been in high res, 130 DPI. It's much easier to edit when you have a lot of pixels. At the very end, I want you to just downsize it to 150, not all the way to 72, because I need to be able to zoom in enough and see good edges. So change the resolution to be 150 pixels. Have the resample box checked. That gives Photoshop permission to throw away extras. It'll take it from 60 megs down to 20 megs or something like that. You should see a reduction in physical size, in file size. It's still going to be a 10-inch by 12-inch PSD, just not as many pixels of detail. Okay? Upload the PSD to the Dropbox below that will exist in just a minute, but you won't be needing it for a few minutes. So that is your homework for next week. Are there any questions or concerns? It's everything in these 2 chapters that we just did. Yep.
10 by 12, that can be portrait.
Yeah, either way. You can make it 10 by 12. I didn't specify which way the dimensions needed to be, so whatever works. You don't have to use Unsplash. There are other images out there, but this is royalty-free and beautiful images, so I wanted to share this website with you no matter what. So. All good? Okay. You have the rest of class time to do with as you'd like, and this is due by the start of class next week.